Okay, so, like, who hasn't dreamt of being a forest ranger at some point?
Right.
Trading the daily grind for, like, breathtaking views and fresh air?
Yeah.
Well, we're diving deep into how to actually make that happen, becoming a forest ranger.
It's pretty cool.
We're using awesome info from RoleCatcher. They're like the experts on career paths, and
Yeah.
their forest ranger guide is seriously impressive.
Definitely.
So get ready. We'll cover what the job really involves, the skills you need, even interview tips, all that good stuff.
Should be fun.
First up, let's ditch those stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's not just about like strolling through the woods. RoleCatcher paints a way more dynamic picture.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just about enjoying the scenery, though that is a perk.
Right.
Forest rangers are like the first line of defense, protecting our forests, making sure those ecosystems stay healthy.
So they're managing conservation efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. They're making sure we're using resources in a sustainable way.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's the law enforcement aspect, too.
Oh, right. RoleCatcher mentioned that, like, enforcing laws, regulation.
It's about protecting these environments from, well, from people who might want to exploit them.
Right, like poaching or illegal logging and things like that.
Exactly, yeah. Those are real threats. And forest rangers are like right there on the front lines, tackling those challenges head on.
And with climate change being what it
It's
is.
huge, yeah.
With climate change and deforestation, the role of a forest ranger seems more important now than, ever before.
Oh, it definitely is. They're the ones who are actually out there working to protect those ecosystems for future
It's
generations.
a huge responsibility,
It really is. And it's only going to become, more and more vital in the coming years.
for sure. Speaking of challenges, though,
Mm,
RoleCatcher doesn't try to make it all, they're very upfront about the pros and the cons of this career path.
right.
On the plus side, you're immersed in nature,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're making a difference in conservation and educating people about how important all that is.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, no 2 days are ever the same.
That's the truth.
But, and this is important, it's not all like
Yeah.
sunshine and roses, right?
Definitely not.
It can be physically demanding.
Yeah.
You're working outdoors in all kinds of weather. You might encounter dangerous situations, maybe have to deal with people who aren't respecting the rules.
It takes a certain kind of person to handle all that, for sure.
It really does. And that actually reminds me, RoleCatcher mentioned the isolation factor.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one to consider, right?
Oh, absolutely. Not everyone is cut out for that. You're often working in remote areas. You got to be comfortable with, being alone with your thoughts, relying on yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Resilience, self-reliance, a real passion for the natural world.
And the outdoors.
Yeah, you got to thrive in that kind of environment.
So if you're thinking about this career path, that's a question to ask yourself right off the bat. Could you handle that?
It's key.
Now, let's say you're all in. You're picturing yourself out there patrolling those forests, protecting those trees, breathing in that fresh air.
Love it.
What kind of education do you actually need to make that happen? What does RoleCatcher recommend?
So they highlight a few different paths, each with its own, strengths.
They do, yeah. Like environmental science, right?
Super important.
Forestry, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And, wildlife biology.
That's another big one. And each of those provides a really unique perspective, They give you the foundation you need in ecosystems, conservation, resource management,
Makes sense.
all that stuff that's crucial for this line of work.
So we've covered, the educational foundation,
Mm.
like the textbook stuff. But what about the actual skills that make a forest ranger, like, good at their job? What does RoleCatcher say about that?
They make it clear that it's not enough to just, read about the environment.
Right.
You have to be able to really be in it, navigate it, understand all the little details.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where those practical skills come in.
So we're talking like wilderness survival skills using a map and compass.
Sure, those are essential.
Maybe some basic first aid, right? In case of emergency.
Oh, absolutely. All crucial. But then RoleCatcher gets into some surprisingly technical stuff too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
GIS, for example, Geographic Information Systems.
Okay. I'll be honest, I'm not totally sure what that is.
Basically, it's how forest rangers use, really detailed maps. They can analyze how healthy the forest is, track where wildlife are moving.
Wow.
It's like this whole high-tech toolkit for managing these huge areas.
I have to say, I did not picture forest rangers using that kind of technology.
Oh, yeah, it's super cool. And it gets even more interesting. They're also using data analysis now.
Really?
Yeah, to make decisions about things like controlled burns, to prevent bigger fires, or when to replant trees, even predict how wildfires might spread.
So they're using data to actually protect the forest.
Exactly. It's all about preserving those ecosystems.
That's amazing. So it's like a blend of that traditional knowledge, but then also this cutting-edge technology.
Exactly. You got it.
That's really interesting. Sounds like you need to be like physically capable and good with technology to be a good forest ranger these days.
100%. And don't forget the people skills, too.
Oh, right. Because they're dealing with the public all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Educating visitors, making sure people are following the rules, even responding to emergencies sometimes.
Which probably involves a lot of like staying calm.
Totally. You need those strong communication skills, knowing how to, talk to people in a way that diffuses things.
Right.
And staying level-headed when things get stressful.
So it's like being a park ranger, a firefighter, and a diplomat all in one.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good idea now of the day-to-day, the skills you need, the knowledge. But how do you actually build a career out of this?
Right. How do you go from, wanting to be a forest ranger to actually doing it?
Exactly. And luckily, RoleCatcher breaks down the career path into these different stages.
They do.
It's kind of like leveling up in a video game,
I love that analogy. It's very true. They start with the entry-level position, which is usually forest ranger trainee.
Okay, makes sense.
And this is where you're really getting your hands dirty. Literally, you're helping out the experienced rangers, learning how everything works.
Sort of like an apprenticeship?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You're proving yourself, showing you're ready to be part of the team.
So lots of hands-on learning, getting that real-world experience right from the start.
Exactly. It's like your forest ranger boot camp.
So it's like that next level then, right? You've put in the work, you've learned the ropes, now you're ready for more responsibility.
Exactly. And that's where you move up to becoming a, full-fledged forest ranger.
So what's that like day to day? What kind of stuff are you doing?
Well, you're more independent at this level. You're doing your own patrols, keeping an eye on how healthy the forest is, making sure visitors are, following the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And you might even get to do some teaching, too, like educating people about conservation.
So it's a mix of like the fieldwork teaching and then also that law enforcement side still.
Yeah, it's a pretty dynamic role. Definitely keeps things interesting. And then, of course, some people, they want to keep climbing that career ladder, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next?
So RoleCatcher talks about the senior forest ranger position. That's a pretty big step.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What does it take to get to that level?
Well, you're usually managing a whole team of rangers at that point,
Wow.
overseeing bigger projects, coming up with long-term plans for the forest.
So you really need those leadership skills.
Oh, definitely. You're also working more with other groups, like different agencies, organizations.
It's getting pretty high level.
It is. You have to be able to think big picture, be a good mentor to the other rangers,
Makes sense.
and really understand all the ins and outs of how to manage a forest properly.
So it's not just about like loving trees anymore, right? It's this whole other skill set.
Exactly. And then for the truly ambitious, there's the chief forest ranger position.
Oh, wow. So that's like the top of the mountain.
Pretty much. You're responsible for a whole forest or even a whole region sometimes. Imagine that.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. You're setting the whole vision, figuring out the budget, working with politicians and stuff on those conservation policies.
Oh, wow. You're like a politician, a CEO, and a forest expert all in one.
Right. You have to be really good at bringing people together, too, getting everyone on the same page about how to protect this incredibly precious resource.
It sounds incredibly challenging, but also so rewarding. Like you're really making a difference.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? It's not just a job.
Yeah.
It's a passion.
Totally. It takes a special kind of person.
Mhm.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm in. I want to be a forest ranger. Where do I even start?
Well, RoleCatcher is a great place to start, for sure. Their guide's got tons of info on all of this.
Yeah, for real. It's been super helpful for us today. But besides that, any advice for someone who's just, starting out on this path?
Well, remember how we were talking about certifications earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Those are like gold, They can really make you stand out, especially when it comes to getting hired.
It's like leveling up your resume.
Yes, exactly. Like
Okay.
getting that wilderness first responder certification, that shows you can handle emergencies, which is huge when you're often working in really remote places.
Right, because it's not like you can just call 911 when you're out in the middle of the wilderness.
Exactly. Or becoming a certified forester, that proves you've got that specialized knowledge, and employers love that.
So these certifications, they're not just like boxes to check. They're really valuable.
Absolutely. They show you're serious about this, that you're in it for the long haul. Oh, and another thing, networking.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That's huge in any field, but especially something like this. Go to those conferences. Join some professional organizations.
You meet other forest rangers,
Yeah.
learn from their experiences.
Exactly. You can even connect with people online these days. It's all about building those relationships, learning from the best and putting yourself out there.
Love it. So preparation is key, but also that passion, that drive to learn and grow.
100%. It really makes a difference.
This has been amazing. I
Mhm.
feel like we've learned so much about what it really takes to become a forest ranger, and it's so much more than I think either of us even realize.
Me too. It's definitely not your average desk job, that's for sure.
Not at all. So for anyone listening who's feeling that call of the wild, so to speak,
I love that.
if you're ready to trade in that morning commute for a hike through the forest, if you're passionate about protecting our planet, and you're not afraid of a little hard work,
Then go for it.
this could be the perfect career for you. And when you're ready to take that next step, remember, RoleCatcher has your back. They've got all the tools and resources you need to make your forest ranger dreams a reality. So get out there, explore, and never stop learning.